Okay, hello artist. Thanks so much for getting your drafts in and putting in the time to get this far. I really appreciate the robust discussion happening over the discussion thread. So my suggestions here are just going to be quick and what I notice. I don't have your questions and responses pulled up alongside this screen, so I'm going to trust that you've all addressed each other's questions. I have read through it. A lot of you are going through very generous lengths to give detailed and precise feedback, and that is really truly wonderful to see and is exactly what you all need. So what I'm going to try to do is draw on here and just point out things that are just sort of sticking out. If you still feel like you haven't gotten an answer to your question after listening to this and after reading through the discussion thread, not only for your own but for everybody's, then please be in touch as soon as possible. Overall, the feedback that everyone needs to hear is just attention to value and contrast and detail. In some cases with architectural drawings like this, it's even appropriate to use like a mechanical pencil and to really get quite detailed in shading in small places. And that's a way to make objects really come alive and become three-dimensional. So what I will do here is mostly focus on just glaring perspective issues like that and walk through my thoughts. Here we go. Okay, so you're going to want to give us some idea of a floor and of a corner of your room. That corner might be there. It might be more like this here. And then that comes out there. So just pay close attention. This is a drawing from observation, so wherever it actually is in your room. The size of these baseball caps are quite small in relationship to the globe, the dresser, the shelves. So I would think about, how big those actually are. I'm just guessing they look something like that, and those would also be going to the vanishing points. Sorry. Make sure your verticals are truly vertical, and then that's going to vanish, and that would be truly vertical. You want to make sure that you're telling us what's in that frame. How are we opening these drawers? I understand that these drawings are in progress, but I'm just mentioning these things so that they're not overlooked. And then each of these handles is going to fit within the vanishing space. Yeah, I think you've given a lot of detail here to this flag pendant. I think this shelf is really interesting. You want to make sure that that's a true horizontal. And then that goes to the vanishing spot like that. And then you just have, because it's a fairly sparse room, not a lot of objects in the room, you're going to want to give us a lot of differences in value. But I do really appreciate how you focused in on some things like the globe and this flag over here. I think that makes it really come to life. You want to maybe give this globe base some depth. So just dive into the objects you do have and really give them life, like maybe this bed comes out a little bit from the bed frame, make that the size that it actually is so it feels stout enough. These closet doors you could detail a bit more. So great start. Looking forward to seeing more on that. Okay, I think perspective here is pretty much figured out. I would my eye actually went straight back here and I noticed that these cups on the shelf don't feel like they would make sense. So I'm going to shrink my pen there. Think about that edge. Maybe these cups are just sitting up a little further. I don't know, I can't really get in there super detailed, but then you have such liveliness, and I did read your comment about too many things going on, and love this, meta, perfect. I wouldn't shy away from all these objects. I think it gives so much life and detail. I mean, down to the paper towel roll, the way that the fridge sticks out, the pans on the wall. And I hear the frustration about these marks. You've gotten some feedback in the discussion thread how to clean those up. But I don't feel it's necessary to have all this texture on the floor. So maybe you can come back in and erase some of the textural lines that you've given, like the couch and the wall and the floor. That with so many architectural lines going on and so much detail, I don't know that those are necessary. But yeah, a lot of really great effort here. I can really get a sense for this space. I think that your cat and couch are going to end up demanding a lot of attention, but really the showstopper is back here in the kitchen. So I would think about like adding more contrast and more detail, darker values back here so that our eye travels both back here and maybe around this corner and into this hallway back there. And then with the couch, just make sure you either erase this texture or really give it the exact texture that you need. And then same with like this throw blanket or whatever the cat's sitting on, that's fully detailed because it's so front and center, or not really center, but it's so much in the foreground. We are going to, I don't know that you'll just be able to sort of like gesture at what a thing is. You'll probably need to fully articulate it out, and same with the cat, and make sure that cat is also sort of vanishing. So this back part of the kitty is potentially, you know, a little larger than the head. This cabinet looks great. Great job using the X to find the center line there. Okay. I think I read you were concerned about the bed. It does appear to be a square, so if the head was here, then see, your vanishing point is there, so it would go something like this. You know, if these were your pillows. Or you would shrink it this way. But I would just, in order to make it not so square, I would either shrink it or you would extend this if the pillows were here. In terms of the story, it's interesting. Like the lamp is unplugged. There's really nothing in the room. The blinds are down. There's no comforter. There's no pillow. There's no real sign of life. It looks like you're either moving in or moving out. So I would play that up a little bit just to give this drawing more interest. You know, maybe there's a moving box over here, or maybe a couple other little hints. You want to give the viewer enough to go on that we are interested in this narrative and in this space. And then double check your size of the objects. This lamp feels, you know, like this is very similar in size to the outlet itself. So I wonder if, oh, I was blown up there, if this is in fact a little bit larger, and what does this look like in perspective. This wall vent is also going to follow these vanishing points, so it would be shaped more like this rather than straight up and down, so you want to look at that. And then because this blind is pulled down, I think it might be cool to really play with the light a little bit, you know, like maybe there's light kind of bursting in through the sides like it's daylight, or maybe it's nighttime and this light is on and then this light is on. So that's kind of another way of creating a shadow there, that you could make this pretty bare room have a lot of like dynamic energy. For this one, it appears that the table is getting sort of shrinking as it gets closer to us, so I would think that this would be flipped. So the table is going to vanish away from us, and so this front end would be larger in terms of distance between this side and this side, and this would be vanishing to your horizon line. I did see that you were concerned about it seeing so much at the top of the table, so and someone commented to you in the discussion thread, gave you a picture even of like how a table might look with a lower horizon line, and I'll roughly do it in my inadequate sketching here, but you'll see the side, and then if you want the horizon line to be further down, then you just need to put that vanishing point there, and then that table is going to flatten out. So you can see here, if you're measuring by sight, take your pencil and really ask yourself, how much of this space from here, the back end of the table, from here, the front end of the table, are you actually seeing? And it might be that it's much shorter, like I've demonstrated here, this distance. So you just want to pay close attention to that. And then you'd have the legs. And this, I know it's a round table, so it would have like more round corners. I think you've done a really beautiful job with these chairs. They might not be in the exact perspective that you're thinking of, but they are really lovely the way that you figure them out. So you just are going to see sort of a different amount of them, right? You won't see so much of the seat. You'll see more of the sides. So if you just do everything you've done here, but kind of lower this horizon line down, and then shrink that distance of the table that you'll see, I think you'll be happy with it. Okay, this one, the things that are coming to mind, looks like this fireplace chimney or this pipe doesn't go anywhere in the ceiling, so I think that would look something like this, and it would actually come into this area of the ceiling. Same with this light, we'd see maybe a base of it that had that shape rather than this shape. This chair is at an angle. This all feels very, very believable. Just don't forget to have the ends of this couch and then go in there with your value. And because this is such a large space back here, I don't know if these are sliding doors or what this is back here, but you'll want to address that. Yeah, but it looks like you've planned it out and you have what you need, so now just play with the contrast and the value. Okay, I think here, what is, this is really interesting. I think this will be important to articulate with value and contrast, because it's like not really what we would expect. It's like folded in an interesting way or gathered in an interesting way. So with these sort of things that aren't necessarily easy to determine or understand right away, you just want to help the viewer by really making sure they don't question it. I think there's a lot of gorgeous detail in this table here that feels, I mean, undoubtedly that's a Kleenex box, undoubtedly that's a music stand, an air returner, or baseboard heater. One thing that isn't making sense to me right now is this chair. So if I were to follow this floor line, I'm going to assume it goes there, and then this floor line is something like that, with the corner of the wall being there. But then I see that the front of this chair is pushed back almost to where the wall meets the floor. So then if I picture this chair as a cube, like we talked about, I don't see where it would have space to exist, if that makes sense. Right? It looks like this chair is maybe up at an angle. So I know that's a lot of lines and maybe confuses the matter, but I think that you want the back of this chair, pretend this chair is see-through, the back of it has to land here on the floor. And then that front angle probably comes down here. So your cube, essentially this corner, needs to be down here and pushed into the room a little bit further. That's just by looking at your photo. If I were to actually be in that space, maybe I would understand a little bit more, but I think that needs a tiny bit more adjustment. And I'm guessing that it just is going to be a matter of shifting it to have the chair front more like this. Okay, this one feels really interesting and dynamic. It feels like you're low to the ground. I appreciate that horizon line. But what's going to need to happen is, do you see how these floor tiles are going at different angles, and they're like gathered really close here, but really far away here? So you want to space that out. Like, go ahead and get the ruler out and say, okay, I'm going to do it every ½ inch. I'm going to start a floorboard, or whatever it actually is in your living space. And then this is a 1-point perspective, so you can take that vanishing point, wherever it is, maybe up here, and connect with all those lines, which of course I can't do freehand right now. But that'll be important. And then you also want to just measure so that that distance and that are the same, so that you're drawing true horizontals, so that they're not going down at a slope. This TV appears to be sitting right on the edge, this monitor, so you want to back that up on the table a little bit, push it back, so it will look something more like this. So that there's a little bit of space in front of this monitor base where it can rest. And then this coffee table, just little adjustments. Make sure this is a true vertical. Make sure it's the same thickness as this leg. Make it uniform. But I really appreciate how this is glass and how you've pushed this book over the glass. It's both on the wood trim and the glass surface of this coffee table. That's really smart, really a lovely way of articulating and describing an object. And yeah, I just think you could use a little further work here, understanding these shelves, but and then just making sure your verticals are truly vertical, your horizontals are truly horizontal, and giving us more space for that TV. Okay, I think there was a question here about the curtains, and I think the only place where they feel sheer is here. I can kind of see the windowsill behind it. I don't know if I'm just seeing that in my imagination or if those lines were once there, but I think this way that you've done shadowing here and the light coming through them and the way they feel very much organically moving with the wind is working quite well. It's very lovely. So I would just accentuate it a little bit more. Right now it's kind of relying on the outline to tell the difference in the folds. So I think you can afford to just get like more value in there, and you can place that value strategically so that they also can't see the remnants of this line that you had before, which I think will help us feel like they're not sheer. You could put pattern on them if you wanted to really like drive home that they weren't sheer, but I don't think that that's necessary. I don't know necessarily what this is. This box does feel like it's translucent or see-through, but I don't really need to know what it is. I just believe this space very much. It's very intimate. It's close up. This is a really interesting and lovingly drawn area, and I hear that you're going to detail what's out the window even further. This like old sort of window latch is a nice touch. I would, since you are so close up, I would kind of deal with this outlet a little bit more. It just doesn't feel totally proportional. So just make sure, because it's front and center, it also seems to be vanishing. It's at an angle, at a steeper angle than anything else is, so I would double check that. Really lovely texture and value. I hope everyone's looking carefully at how you're sort of describing your shadows and different ideas of opacity and contrast. Okay, this one I think will really come to life once there's value up front, because right now it's a bit hard to see what's in front of what. I think this light is interesting. You could have that on and play with the shadows that way. I think there's a bit of a tangent here with this vertical. I think this was mentioned in the discussion thread, but how much vertical lines there are happening in the middle. So that, with coupled with that, you know, with this, it starts to feel like it's broken up there. So maybe this, and I think this was suggested to you, could tilt or just be stepped back or stepped forward a little bit. And then just use value to help us understand that this is further away. There's really lovely shadowing happening and paying attention, close attention to the door, the fan. Feels a little small. It's really lovely drawn, but I'm kind of guessing it's actually larger just because this is a smaller space. So I'm guessing that comes out to into the room a teeny bit more. And yeah, just articulate. I think this is like a laptop facing us, and that's a chair facing this, maybe the back of this desk. It's you just want to kind of help us understand what's in front of what over here, but this is a great start. Okay, yeah, I love these meta sort of alluding to the drawing homework itself. That's pretty fun. If you're going to draw a glass, you want to remember that it is transparent, and when it is something that's front and center, make sure you're really giving it a lot of focus. It's one of the only things here on the counter, so we're going to sort of pick it apart, not in a not in a judgmental way, but we'll just want to look at it and really think about it. You're still not totally there with your counter. I just say that because we've talked about this counter before, so I might need to help. It is a kind of a confusing space, but it looks like this is your, looks like the corner of your room has to be there. Let me see. Yeah, so I think that this, we wouldn't see that corner there. But if you want to give me a photo, just because we've talked about this kitchen before and I feel like maybe I wasn't able to fully describe what it needed, you could send me a photo and I can try to help draw it. But I think that'll be important. And then this is a 1-point perspective, so this is going to be a true horizontal. And then I'm guessing your sink is a little wider than it is long, so I would just double check those proportions. And then, yeah, think about that size and the foreshortening. Like, I'm guessing this faucet, if we're sitting this close, maybe feels a little bigger. And I'm thinking this latch probably is down here. But these are just things that I'm responding to. They're not necessarily the way they need to be drawn. They're just kind of what's coming to me as I'm looking at this. And then if this is an actual candle that's on, you might want to play with that light. Maybe these are actually erased, not drawn, and the value is all around it, right? Just to give the sense that that's actually a source of light. So, and then, yeah, I think this has the potential for really being a strong sense of a living environment. You just are going to want to have value and more attention paid to the actual the size of the objects. Nice. Okay, I think on this one you were sort of just guessing where your vanishing points are, which is fine, but tricky as you realize. Looks like this one might be on the page somewhere. And then you know that your other one is going to share that horizon line, but just be somewhere over here. So a couple things to just keep in mind is this will be, things on the left and in the front will be larger. So this table, I think I'm exaggerating there, but this table will actually be a little bit larger on this side. To match this, don't take my word for it there, but it will be a little bit larger on this end. And then the cat, because sort of what I was talking about with Laura's earlier, because it's front and center and because it's a living being, we're going to scrutinize it a little bit more. So just make sure that you're really drawing your cat sort of exactly, so that we're not questioning. When we add a living creature to our work, it can feel like it can either sort of make or break it, right? It can add a lot of life and detail, but if it doesn't feel really like a cat, then your otherwise believable space can sort of, the illusion can be lost. And so I certainly know this is a cat, but it feels less detailed than like the chair. So I would consider that. And then same thing here, this table, this is a little closer to us than this side. So this side here will be a tiny bit smaller than this side here. Even though I don't know exactly where your vanishing points are, I can just say that. So just like this side will be a teeny bit smaller than this side, because things are vanishing up into space this way somewhere. This is all really lovely, the molding and the way that the ceiling is operating. You have this bookshelf seems to be working. It's vanishing that way. All of this is vanishing that way. So even though you don't know exactly where it is, you're doing a pretty good job guessing. You just want to work on these foreground proportions. Okay, this is nice to see. Work environment. It's certainly an expansive space. I would break up the floor maybe a little bit. So if this is one of your vanishing points, your floorboards will all be kind of in that direction, right? So going like, this. I think that'll help. Otherwise, it feels a little unrealistic. I'd love to see things in this cabinet in the bakery, maybe a couple more items, but it's also okay to have it sparse. Really lovely job with differentiation of values in the way that you've done the shelves. I can't quite understand what's going on in the corner. I see this couch. A lot of you are going to need better images because it's just pretty hard to see what's going on. But I think it's off to a good start. If the couch comes here, I'm not sure this chair would fit back there. So that's my only question. And then just make sure you have windowsill and sort of describe those windows a little bit more and maybe something here at the table. But really nice. I already, even with understanding not being able to see super clearly, I'm already like positioned in a place that feels real. The way that you've put the horizon line down, it feels very much human scale. So you're off to a good start. Okay, this also has a nice horizon line. I feel very much put into place. The chandelier, really careful attention to that. I'm looking forward to seeing more details. I think there were some questions here about the chair. So I'm assuming this chair crosses in the middle, these legs. So what you could do is pretend this chair is a box, a cube, and the bottom is vanishing. So corner to corner, corner to corner. So do you see that X there? I mean, I know I'm not doing it exactly, but I think what's going to happen is that this X is going to happen kind of further up, and the distance between this leg and this leg is going to be much wider. So it would be here and then, there. And then you'll have your seat. Something like that. Just little details right now. You've done a lot of the hard work, and that plant in the back feels very, very much alive. So yeah, I'm guessing it's going to look something like I know that's confusing to look at, but the cross of the two legs is going to happen further up, and the distance between this and this is going to be greater. So I think this is one way to approach it with getting so much value in there and energy, but it can, I think you'll want to spend a lot of time sort of erasing and bringing clarity to the image, just in terms of helping us understand the space, and then come back in with like a real sort of more careful and concentrated way of mark making in order to push these spaces back. I think these energetic lines are wonderful for expressing emotion, but one thing that can happen is when you treat the foreground with the same amount of value and mark making as you treat the background, they flatten. So I don't necessarily feel like this space is behind or further back than this space. So just when you go into this for your further drafts, think about that. Like, okay, how am I going to actually make this feel like it's further away from the viewer? And I think value is usually the answer there. And then allow some things to be bright white and really kind of just the white of the page. Allow for this countertop. Right now it doesn't feel totally in perspective. Think about where your horizon line is, where you are as the viewer, and how you can create this illusion of space. So do you see how here this shelf is kind of going uphill? So with this vanishing point as I'm seeing it, that would actually be more at an angle going down toward the horizon line, where this would be more at this angle. And then you have your cabinet doors there. So don't overlook all those details and those angles, and finding that vanishing point. That's going to be important. And then I'm not sure if this is like a ceiling light, but you'd also, I know you and I talked about your ceiling fan in the 2-point perspective. So think about, it's not gonna like we're looking straight up at a circle. We're looking at a sort of a dome or a can light in perspective there. Great, really lovely detail here with the curtain rings. This lamp feels I think there was a question about size and realism. This lamp feels a little large, but I appreciate that it's larger. A lot of times people tend to draw it too small, and so, but it feels a bit oversized. So I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe it is, but I would consider shrinking that down a little bit, or just taking another look at that. And then you could play with it if that is actually casting any light, or if it's daytime and the lamp is not on. Something to consider. Everything else feels pretty good. So you can there's opportunity here for something above the mantle, things in the shelves. If nothing is in the shelf, then just make sure that you are drawing the shelves themselves, so that we understand this as being empty, unless these are drawers, in which case there would be little door handles. Right? Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this one goes. Oh yeah, I was looking at this one earlier. So the horizon line is low, which is quite nice, which is working for the top, but then on the bottom, it's going to go down as well. So, oops, you can see here that this line comes down, and then if I was to follow that here, that means that this front part of your shoe rack needs to come all the way down to that line. And then if this is a 1-point perspective, not a straight line at all, this other table leg is going to come all the way down as well. So this will come into the room space a lot more. And then I think the bottom of this might be more at an angle, come out a little bit more. And then these shoes are quite sweet. If they're children's shoes, then I think they are maybe the correct proportion. If they're adult shoes, they feel too small. So one idea is that you could have, maybe a pair of adult shoes there too, just so that we don't question that size. It's just something to consider. And yeah, but lovely details. Okay, thanks for letting me talk through this. You all have gotten really far in these last couple days, so I consider these, most of them about anywhere from 30 to 50% done. So really put in the time to make them fully come alive, and let me know your questions. Thank you so much.